Hello, everybody. Tim here with another movie review, a non spoiler movie review for Thor Ragnarok. This is like the 17th film in the MCU, I think, and this is the third film in the Thor franchise. And this time it's being directed by Taika Waititi, who directed What We Do in the Shadows and Hunt for the Wilder People, two movies that I personally love. And then it's also bringing back Chris Hemsworth, Tom Hiddleston, Anthony Hopkins, and a bunch of others from the original cast of the other two films. And we've also got a lot of newcomers in here, like Tessa Thompson, Jeff Goldblum. And what the story here is that Thor is off doing his Thor things out in the universe, and he comes across a being who basically tells him that Ragnarok is coming, and Ragnarok is the end of the world as we know it, basically, and that it's going to destroy Asgard, and Thor's got to stop it. And Ragnarok is coming in the form of Hela, the goddess of death, and that's the basic plot of this film. There's a lot of, and Thor also goes off on an adventure then to stop Ragnarok, but he runs into Hulk, and the Grandmaster Jeff Goldblum. So there's a lot going on in this movie, and I have a lot of thoughts about this movie. So without getting into spoilers, my thoughts on this movie: I loved it. If you have listened to me for any period of time, you know that I am a big Marvel fan, specifically MCU. I love all things Marvel, but specifically the MCU I'm a huge fan of. So obviously I'm looking forward to this movie, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I do have a couple minor problems with the movie, but again, let's get into those positives first. The color and just the vibrant, fun nature of the movie is probably the biggest thing that you've heard about this movie if you've listened to any other reviews, and it's true. It's all true, all of it. The colors and the action and just the general sense of fun that you have through the movie is absolutely great. And Chris Hemsworth just keeps on killing it as Thor. The first two Thor movies are probably some of the weaker films in the MCU. I really happen to like the first one quite a bit. The second one I even like to a degree. Like I think it's probably one of the weaker of the MCU films, but I still enjoy it. But this is by far the best in the three Thor films. And I think it's mainly because of Taika Waititi as well, because he just directs the crap out of this thing. He brings his sense of humor and fun and style to an MCU film. I've heard quite a few people saying, they were hoping for a Taika Waititi MCU film. Oh, but it's probably going to end up being just like Taika Waititi doing whatever Marvel says. And, I feel completely the opposite. I feel like they let him run loose. There are some things in this movie that, obviously Marvel had to okay and say, yes, go ahead and do that. But I feel like they were totally him. In interviews, he's been saying that they're like 80% of this movie is improvised, and it's not that you can tell, but there are moments where you can just tell, like, that is not scripted. They totally came up with that on the fly. There's one moment in particular involving a story about a snake that you could just tell the actors were having a blast just improvising on set. And another way you could tell is through just like the marketing. There were a ton of jokes in the marketing that didn't even make it into the film, and not that's a bad thing, because the jokes that were in the film worked. There are a couple that didn't work, but for the most part, I'd say 90% of the time the jokes landed, and that's pretty good considering that earlier in the year we got Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, which is a movie I enjoyed. I liked it a lot, but the jokes landed maybe 70% of the time in that movie for me. So this one had a much higher landing in that sense. I think Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk, once again, knocks it out of the park. Hulk has a lot to say in this movie, and I loved everything that came out of his mouth. It was glorious. It was absolutely glorious. And the Hulk Thor fight that is teased in the trailers is not a disappointment. It is great. It's not my favorite part of the movie, because there's parts towards the end that I like more, but it is definitely worth the anticipation of seeing that sequence. So obviously, guys, you can tell that I liked this movie a lot. I'm out of breath talking about how much I like this movie, but there are a couple things that I didn't like. One of them gets a little bit into spoilers, but there's a cameo from another MCU character in this film, and it felt out of place. I'm happy it was there, but it felt like it was there more to just be like, oh, see, we're in the MCU. Don't forget that it's all connected, and it didn't feel like it needed to be there. Again, I understand why it's there. It also was going to help with Infinity War, which is coming out in the future in May. So I understand why it was there. It felt out of place, too quick, like they just kind of rushed over it, and that the scene didn't want to be there. I don't think it needed to be there. Again, it's cool that it is, but it felt out of place to me. I would have preferred that it would have maybe been a deleted scene, or not in the film at all. And then my other issue with the movie is, Cate Blanchett is in this film. I haven't even talked about her at all. She's fantastic as Hela. My only complaint is I wanted more of her, and she does, especially in the middle portion of the film, kind of become an exposition dump, which again isn't a bad thing all the time, but again, it's just she does it constantly, just over and over again, just telling you her story instead of doing things. She's just kind of sitting there, telling things to the audience that the audience needs to know. And I wish they could have fixed that in some way, or had her do more, had her be in the movie more. But when she was on screen, I loved it. She looks amazing, beautiful, and scary at the same time. She's absolutely great in the role. I just wanted more. And that being said, this movie is 2 hours and 10 minutes long. It did not bother me. I think we were talking about Suburbicon earlier last week, where I was saying, that movie was an hour 45 and it felt long. And there are other movies that I've been reviewing lately that I'm just like, they're boring and long. This movie's long, and I didn't bat an eye. I actually saw this thing back to back. I saw it twice in one night. I saw it at 6 p.m. and then I just saw it again at 9 p.m. So I've seen this thing twice in the last 10 hours. And it felt shorter the second time because I was just having so much fun now that I knew what was happening. I could just have fun, sit back and relax and enjoy the film. So I think the runtime is actually really good for this movie. It packs everything in. It's really fast paced. You're never bored throughout the movie. You're always laughing, smiling. Something is happy. Aside from those couple moments that I felt shouldn't have been in the film and that I wanted more from Cate Blanchett, this is one of the best Marvel movies in a long time. It's my favorite MCU movie that we've gotten this year. I liked it more than Spider-Man. I liked it more than Guardians of the Galaxy, which is saying a lot because the first Guardians is my favorite MCU movie of all time, and then Spider-Man is my favorite Marvel character ever. Probably my favorite superhero ever. So that's saying a lot that I liked the Thor movie more than those two, which were both good movies. Not great movies, but good movies. So I definitely highly recommend you check this one out. It does suffer from the detriment of, you have to see the other Marvel movies to understand. I think if someone has never seen a Marvel movie before and they go into this, they would be completely lost, which kind of sucks. But at the same time, they might enjoy it due to just the colorful and fun nature of the movie, but it's hard to tell. I feel like everybody is inundated with these movies, and no matter who you are, you could see one of these movies, and or that everybody has seen at least one of these MCU movies, whether it's the Avengers or Iron Man or what have you. So I really liked it. I ended up giving it a 4.5 out of 5. It would have gotten that 5 out of 5, but those couple things I mentioned before just brought it down a little bit. So anyway, guys, those are my thoughts on Thor Ragnarok. I had a lot of scatterbrained things that I was just throwing at you. But if you liked this video, hit that like button, hit subscribe. It helps me out a great deal. And then I'm going to be doing a spoiler heavy review of this sometime in the next couple days, so be on the lookout for that spoiler review. Well, anyway, guys, thanks as always for listening, and until next time, have a good one.